in high school, in college, you know. So Spider-Man was the hip guy. He was the really cool guy. And Marvel was a step above Superman comics and all those, you know, because suddenly they were hip. These guys and all their language was very cool and everything like that. And I always tell people I've done, let me see, I did this one from the inside one, and I did The Last Temptation, which was three of them. And working with Stan Lee is great. Stan is a rock and roller, you know, so you really got to like him.
And what was it like being in a comic book movie?
Well, the great thing about it, the best thing about being a comic book hero is they give you great abs. You don't have to work for your abs. They draw them in. And you have, you know, if your shirt's off, you have these great abs like Spider-Man, you know. And they give you shoulders that are a little bit better, and they take the hook off your nose, so you're kind of handsome and everything. The artists are always amazing to me. The guys that do the drawings, I was an artist, and I never could do that type of drawing, that kind of action drawing, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything more exciting. When I was a kid, I used to have literally boxes of comic books. I had old Black Hawk and Batman and all the Superman and all the Dell comics. But I mean literally thousands of them, which of course are all gone now, you know. Comic books in the summertime when you were out of school were your life. That's all you did. You read comic books all day. So I mean, then being in one was a big privilege to me, you know.
And who came up with the concept?
The very first one, I think Stan Lee was involved in it. He had come to see the show, the From the Inside show. And the whole thing was about Alice being in a mental institution. And he liked the idea of Alice escaping the mental institution and all this. So it really made sense to him that Alice was the first rock star to be, you know, in a Marvel comic. The Last Temptation was a great storyline. It was like Something Wicked This Way Comes. It was a storyline. The whole album was about a circus that comes into town. And this little boy that's tempted to kind of join the circus, and the showman is sort of this temptress. He's the guy that's trying to get him to come in. And it just had so many great visual ideas in it that it ended up being 3 comics. 3, you know, episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3. And then put into 1 comic. But the whole idea, the whole thing was about temptation. And in the end, when the little kid doesn't buy in to the, you know, to the whole thing that the showman is trying to sell him, you can have all, you know, the girls you want, you can have all the money. The kid starts realizing that everything that's in this circus is dead. That it has a death to it, you know. And he realizes if he joins this circus, he's going to be dead. So he doesn't join. And that's the trick ending on the thing, is the fact that the kid walks away from it, you know. And the showman goes on to the next town to try to find another little boy to pull in. You know.
And what was the reaction of the public when you first went there?
Well, first of all, I worked with Neil Gaiman on it. And Neil, of course, you know, had Sandman, and he had a lot of underground comic books that were very successful at the time. He was like one of the great names in comic books. And he was the one that we worked on it together. And I think his name meant a lot to the comic book world. So our connection together, sort of Alice being the performing artist, becoming a comic book character, and his background in comic books, he designed the Sandman, he said, after Alice Cooper. He said there was a lot of Alice Cooper in the Sandman, you know, and there was a lot of Alice Cooper in the little girl, the death, you know. So I was kind of connected to him anyways.
So the segue between the 2 mediums, you think?
Oh, it's, you know, what could be more rock and roll than comic books? You know, it's bigger than life. It's fantasy driven. It doesn't depend on a normal, everyday kind of reaction to things. I think when people look at rock stars, they think, this person's not like me. He's like from another world. Well, it's kind of like that. I can be sitting here talking to you and doing an interview and going to play golf and stuff like that. Tonight, when I go on stage and I become Alice Cooper, and I'm up on that stage and I'm this character, I'm not me. I'm Alice. And I have no idea where he comes from. He's like You know, he's from, I don't know where he's from. You know, I don't want to know where he's from. So he's like, could have walked right out of that comic book up onto that stage. He's not really human. And neither is Mick Jagger up there, and neither is Rob Zombie, and neither is Trent Reznor. And we all become sort of our alter egos on stage.
And but the first attempt, the first Marvel one, was it?
It was more comedy, I think. I think the idea of Alice Cooper being in this insane asylum was more comedy-driven than horror-driven. Whereas The Last Temptation